ready.
Okay, 4 o'clock, we'll call the FHR meeting to order. Roll call.
Here.
Trustee Grundon's here, President Matzel's here. Trustee McGregor is going to try to zoom in. He's trying to get an internet connection. Diane is here. And Dwayne, our administrator, is here at the table. And I see we have Sandy Robinson, Chief Drew, thank you. A motion to approve the agenda and a motion to approve the committee meetings from September 7th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Grundon. Oh, motion by me, second by Grundon. Sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposed. Approved. Public comments. Mrs. Robinson, do you have any comments for the FHR committee? Do you have any comments for our,
Well, I'm thinking,
you're thinking, okay,
because when you're done with the meeting, I might have some questions, but then what good is that gonna do me?
we'll let her come back.
Have
Well,
to come
well,
to the
well,
next meeting?
No,
Or what?
we'll, if you have questions during that, you just raise your hand and we'll get your input, okay?
Oh, Caleb's here now.
How's that? If you have questions during some part of the meeting and you wanna speak about it, we'll definitely hear you, okay?
Yeah, because I am a citizen of Port Edwards.
We know that.
And I will not go over the allotted however many minutes, I promise.
That's fine if you do.
Well, I won't. 'Cause
Okay.
that's the rule.
Hi, Eric. Do you have an agenda here? We just started the meeting.
Thank you, sir, for being late.
No worries. Do you have any, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the agenda, if you had any
I saw the
comments?
agenda and I'm here to learn.
Okay.
And we can actually ask questions whenever we have one.
Yeah,
If you
just
raise your hand.
You raise your
Well,
hand. We don't want everybody speaking over each other.
Just
Okay, chairman comments. I have no comments. I looked, Diane, do you have anything for us? Any updates on, I know that we talked before about, some computer issues where our backup will now be with Wood County server. That's my understanding. I don't know if there is any,
Well, it should be, yeah.
should be.
Because Dirks isn't billing us for it anymore.
so, okay. Anything else that you have at this time?
Nope.
Okay, with that, I would make a motion to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous month's financial report.
second.
Second by Grundon. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Everybody,
No,
Gregor
thumbs up.
gave us a thumbs
Yeah.
up. Update on the grant request from Port Service. I have seen, Dwayne had previously, our previous administrator, Boz, had, these small grants that were allowed for our community. One was the mural that we gave $6,000. I think we gave, some other grants available. Actually, one pending for the coffee shop, one for our beauty shop. And you can see in the packet here, we have Neil Johnson, the owner, and Brittany Burtz from Port Service. They're requesting some financial assistance with a sewer problem that they have. And it does fall into the TIF program. I see that they wanted $10,000 and our village administrator, Dwayne, approved $5,000. Does anybody have any comments on this? I know that we talked when Boz left that these would come back to our committee just for kind of approval, that I think that that's fair. I think that Port Service is a good business here. They're kind of right on our main drag, and I think that he does well, and I wish him well, and if that helps him with the sewer project, I'm definitely with that. Sandy, do you have a question?
Making that statement, what exactly does the village do as far as business with Port Service? Do you take your squad cars there to be checked over? Do you take your rescue vehicles to be checked over? Cause I can tell you for one thing, his labor is a little bit, everybody's labor went up, but his is less than anywhere in Wisconsin Rapids. And he's a master mechanic. He has all the training.
Yes, definitely, and I know that we had utilized him in the past. When I was with the police department, we utilized him for different things. Actually, we, all the way from back when, God rest his soul, John Henry had Henry's, Port Service. So we try to do business local when we can, and we definitely get quotes or information from them. But
Or
thank you,
second opinions would be maybe a good idea too.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that, I guess that update, we can approve that $5,000 grant from the TIP program.
I'll make that motion.
Do we need a motion for that, or is
Do we
that,
know?
I think that's already been,
Okay,
it's just that
It's an update.
it's kind of an update.
right, okay.
I understand that the village board gave the village administrator authority to work these out, and the village administrator is supposed to.
I think we've been bringing them, but if we determined that we need to, we could still bring it to the board.
Based on the policy was to come to this committee. On the
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so have we brought stuff out for, I thought we have been for, I thought we have been for like Mission. I thought we voted on the beauty parlor.
I think it was, over a certain dollar amount. We actually have that back in the minutes where there was the small grants.
Yeah,
But the Mission Coffee was a bigger grant
I
for the
think the
TIP.
beauty parlor was like 4,000. Do you remember, Diane?
I looked at all the past,
Yeah, the board never approved it
No.
because the board approved having the administrator
Mhm.
approve and
So
then.
we're good. We're
and
good now.
when I'm supposed, the administrator is supposed to inform the finance administration.
Perfect,
And I went through all the past grants and see how Boz handled them too.
got it, perfect.
Number 9 is a motion to approve the estimated TIP expenditures for proposal road projects through 2029. I will make this motion to do so.
Second,
Second by Grundon. Discussion.
what's the estimated dollar amount?
Well, if you look in the packet here, you'll see estimated for expenditures for road projects. What we have here, you can see the balance of the TIF on the far left-hand side for 2024, all the way through 2029. And Dwayne was there at the meeting too. But what we're looking at is using these TIF dollars, and there'll still be a balance right around 400,000 plus by the end of 2029, because money keeps going in there every year. But we want to pass this so we can have this Second Street Road project as a 5-year project, which would have to be done and passed by September of next year. The reason that we have to do that is then the TIF is going to be closed out. And then this money would just kind of go and be distributed, and we would not be able to take advantage of this. I'll just be straight up in front is, when we talked this over, there was some discussion is DMI wanted a portion of that TIF money, and they may come to our next meeting. And I think the way I feel, and I don't know if the rest of the trustees feel, that DMI, we had ample time to do things for the village of Port Edwards and their property and clean it up. And if they want to come to the board meeting and tell us what they're going to do, that's fine. I need to see some action. The mill's been closed for a long time. It's half torn down. If you look at the backside, it's not a pretty sight. So this right here would be an expenditure of that TIF money, which would benefit every taxpayer by having this road project done, which desperately needs to be done. It goes right by the school. By the time this is done, it will come all the way down to our alleyway here, which is in the TIF. And it goes by the school. All of the sewer lines, the water lines are old, and it will save the taxpayers quite a bit of money in the long run, because we won't have to come up with these road projects each year, the money for these. So that is why we're looking at this proposal. Does anybody else have any other questions? I guess I'm trying to explain it the best I can.
What did you say would be the balance after the fact?
We're looking at a balance of approximately
okay, so over
$50,000. This is just kind of an estimated type of thing because money keeps going into the TIF each year. Right now, the balance is right around 800,000 minus Vanderwalt. And work that's been being done on the TIF and some of the small grants, but there still should be, we need to keep an eye on it, and Diane's been great at doing that and keeping an eye on where we're at with that. So we should have even money left over, correct, Dwayne?
Diane's put together, correct. The idea is that the project needs to be, that's why it's coming forward. This project needs to be bid or in contract by September of 2024. And that's why this is being proposed that will, and I've talked to Ben, he's working with the engineers, we'll have all that in place before that date to consummate a contract to do these projects over that period of time. And that's a way that way we're within our TIF laws to have a contracts in place. And then we can expenditures over the period of time because you gotta have that in place with a contractor. That's the goal. Yes. Chairman Rackey's correct. There has been discussions with DMI over the past with Boz before I even got here. Yeah, a lot of the TIF dollars were ventured earlier on were considered earmarked for the DMI project. I was here 3 years ago. I can attest that we had a lot of difficulties with DMI to get things occurred back in that time. What I do know is they're gonna be at your next village board meeting, and they are in a different position they were 3 years ago or 4 years ago to have more discussions. Now, so you know, and I know maybe off topic, but we're talking about DMI and we're talking about the actual TIF dollars here. There's always, if DMI comes up with some proposals where it can generate new increment in the TIF, that's where you can do an overlay or different pieces on. So, but I think there's nothing wrong of doing this now, getting this in place. There's always another way of creating, if there's new increment being developed, yes, you can have good discussions with those folks to see where they're going. I think I see that as a positive.
Yes, definitely. Any other questions on that? With hearing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Number 10 is motion to accept the garbage collection rates for 2024-25. You'll see that in the packet here. Diane has gotten that for us. Our contract is due. Of course, with everything, costs are gonna go up. Garbage pickup will be a separate item that would not be on your taxes, but on your tax bill, kind of like the hydrant fees. And the way I see it, what was it going up again, Dwayne? Did you?
No, I'm trying to find a number in here.
It'll be 186.32 for the next 2 years on the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Dan. I'm looking for a percentage increase. Do you have an idea?
Well, it was 169 something before, so.
Says over here, 10% increase.
For 2 years?
No, that's just the estimate for the
for us.
environmental charges and
Okay.
stuff, yeah.
Mhm. See,
So it's going up about $14 per resident.
the consumer price index has gone up for this year. A lot of people are looking at it, was at 3.6% or 3.87%. So I was kind of curious if they calculated that in there.
So I would put that motion to accept that. Like I said, it's gonna be about $14 for each resident for garbage pickup, but I guess if you look at the cost of, if we have our own recycling and our own garbage, or, you know, I know it's been brought up, the communities sometimes bring their garbage to one site and get picked up, but that, again, I don't think is really a good idea for our community and our elderly residents. I think that this, for $14, I think it's a good deal. So I make the motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Grundon. Any other discussion on the motion? Sandy, do you have a comment?
Yes. When we initially went with that disposal system and other areas did as well, they were offered the shorter bins, the shorter garbage bins, and we never were. They have, if you drive around Nacusa and Rapids, you'll see some shorter bins. And a lot of people have complained, it's like, yeah, 40-mile-an-hour winds and you're going down your driveway with a, like me, by myself, I never fill it.
But we can definitely take a look at that.
The smaller
Dwayne, we could
ones,
probably contact,
garbage.
yeah, we can look at that and that might be a possibility.
Oh, you got waste management. Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, definitely we'll take a look at that and get a question, an answer for your question.
And maybe with this increase, they won't chew up my curb like they did a couple weeks ago.
I'm not gonna make a promise on that.
Well, I'll put a sign
Okay,
on.
no other discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, motion passes. The next motion comes out of the PFC is a motion to recommend a 4-year contract to renew the Wisconsin Rapids Ambulance Service at a rate of $25 per capita for 2024 and 25, and a 26 per capita for 2026 and 27. So we would have a 4-year contract with them.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Grundon. I'll second the motion. I know that, we've talked about this. We knew it was going up. The rapid service. I can't say enough good things about the rapid service. I think that they're very, very, professional. They're on time. They get there as quick as they can. I haven't heard anything, from residents or patients that have used the service. Has anybody else?
Been nothing but good feedback, but the thing to keep in mind, the way they explained it, they're not like making a profit there. It's not a big gouge. All of the people that they're serving are getting the same. We're not having anything that anybody else isn't having. And then there's also the part where they provide us with training for our EMS and supplies. So in the long run, although it's expensive, everything is.
And just to let you know that this is going up by probably around 24,000 a year or 25. I think,
18,634 to 45,450. I don't think that was in the packet, but I got that.
oh, thank you.
The other important thing to realize is that you're getting a full-time EMS services. And they're a full-time staff, and they're also all educated or trained in paramedic level too.
Yeah, I'm just kind of rough numbers. So, just, I don't want to hold anything back from the community or any of the taxpayers. It's going up by $27,000 approximately from last year. And then the next year, it won't be going, it maintains for 2026 or 25, and then it goes up a little bit in 26. But it's gonna take a jump, and we have to remember that definitely on our budget and our budget meetings that are coming up in the future. And like I said, I think it's a necessary service, but $27,000 is not just something that,
Well,
for some people, it's a whole year wage.
yeah. With that, at some point, because it used to be that when we had Nacusa ambulance, they were volunteer. So having our first responders getting on scene right as fast as they could to get the volunteers that would get their vehicle and get here. Our first responders have a different role. Now, my understanding is most of the time, the ambulance is there before our first responders. So we're kind of duplicating the service, and there might be a point that we need to look at it.
Well, I know that we were over budget on our first responders. I guess that was a question too. Are we limiting to pay 1 or 2 first responders instead of, I don't know how many are showing up. I don't have them facts and figures, so I don't really wanna be.
Yeah.
But are we investigating that, especially with the, you know, we're looking at $27,000.
The key thing is you got a first responder level of training and you got a paramedic level of training. The paramedic level of training is so much higher that, matter of fact, first responder can't even do certain things that a paramedic can do. And then beyond that, you got, excuse me, I got it wrong, EMT, I apologize. It's the first responder, EMT, I think it is.
Yeah,
EMT, and then it's the paramedic. And by them being a level of EMT, our first responders cannot even actually touch some of these patients. That's why it's so good to have that level of service from Rapids for the constituents and citizens of Port. Because you need to be at that level today. A first responder, it can do certain things, but not a EMT.
Sandy, did you have a comment?
I know he's no longer employed. Patrick Art, what was his level? What was his level of
First responder.
expertise?
First
Because-
responder.
First
Because
responder.
when I called the hospital, I was gonna drive Dwayne in myself to the hospital, and I was advised that I had a first responder just 2 blocks from my house, and that I should call, they'd send an ambulance, and that first responder would be there. Well, he was there in a New York minute, and when we got to Marshfield, the cardiologist told me that Port Edwards, the work they did on him, saved him so much time because he had done such a good job that he was able to bypass a lot of his situations when he went in and did the stenting and whatever. And it was a bad deal because the chaplain was there with my daughter and me. So it wasn't just, so I was just wondering what his expertise was, because he
Well, thank
actually
you. That's
was the
good.
reason.
It's good to hear that from our public, and we like to hear that.
Mhm.
Okay,
And I also went to a seminar, and people are trying to sell you ambulance insurance. Maybe you've never heard of it. I have all the information at home, whatever, but people were buying it.
It's expensive.
And the fact is like 3,000 and some dollars for a year for this, and it was, and then if you buy it for 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I think it's kind of a scam thing, because I've only taken three ambulance, 3 too many.
okay.
But, if you were to divide or get a mathematician, figure out at the price you pay for an ambulance service by the runs that are actually made to the Port Edwards residents, I'd
Right.
kind of like to know how much a run that would be.
Yeah.
Pretty
don't-
high.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. I guess with that, we'll put this to vote. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing nobody opposed, that motion passes. Number 12 is a recommendation to create a 400 account for the Port Edwards Fire Department expenses. I looked at that, and I understand it came out of the protective services, and I don't see anybody here from the fire department, but I know what they're looking to do. I did talk to Diane, and they have an outlay account already. And that outlay is like any other account. If there's money left
Well,
in,
it's not really an account, it's a line item.
oh, a line item,
Yeah,
okay.
capital outlay.
And I don't know if they were looking for that to get rolled over to account. I guess with my understanding, and I may be wrong, then Diane tell me, but my understanding is we would have to say so many dollars would go into this 400 account every year. So we would have to commit, I don't know, you could probably anywhere from $500 to $5,000 to 500,000. but then we'd have to commit that as a income that would keep going into that account. I'm not prepared to do that, especially with budget time right around the corner. I mean, I think that they're looking to do that because they are in the look of a rescue vehicle. And I think this has been brought up to my committee before, you know, and I guess I want to bring this out to each one of us too, to talk to our department heads is, I think we want to look at a bare boned budget from each department. And then if we can start with those numbers and we have surplus, then we can look at, you know, what we want and what we need. You know, I know departments, all departments want something, but I think we're in this as one pot and one entity of the village of Port Edwards. So I think if we go back and look at our departments, police, fire, public works, and say, give us your operating budget. Diane can take those numbers, plug them in and say, this is where you're gonna be. I think, you know, we all got the email Dave from Dwayne saying that, you know, things are projected at the end of the year. So with them projections, and budget time, I think that that's where we need to be right now. And then if there's extras, then we can create a 400 account at any time, anywhere along the line. So with that, I'm at this time, I'm not going to recommend a motion. I guess if you feel, Caleb or Tiara, you feel that you want a motion to do this, it's coming from your committee. We can definitely, if one of you want to make a motion, we can have more discussion, but that's how I feel at this time.
I agree regarding, I'm not supportive of getting a rescue vehicle or creating an account.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I feel like without an account like this, then the department's always gonna be sort of hamstrung financially without any money rolling over. So I would be in support of it still. But I won't make the motion if neither of you will second it, so. I don't really foresee a way or how they've done it in the past to get $150,000 vehicle perhaps. I don't know how that's possible unless it's just all through grants.
I guess I don't,
So when the board approves those big purchases, like our engines are like 500,000, somewhere in that area. That is separate, that comes from the, am I thinking right, the capital outlay? When we buy our engines,
Well, the fire engines, we always take out a loan.
right,
Right. He's talking about like what the police department
Right.
has. They get so much in there each year, so then they can buy police
right.
squads. And 400 accounts, you supposed to have a plan. You don't just throw a certain amount in
Right.
every year. So,
So then maybe that's something that if there was a plan at some point that we could re-explore it.
Basically, when you look at departments for the equipment replacement, that you need to know what's going down, and you got to have a capital plan, equipment replacement plan. I don't know if the fire department's ever had one, or Diane can help me, yes or no, I don't think so. I do know that in the police department, since I've been here, they always had a certain amount of squads being placed over a certain amount of years. And the board has decided to put certain funds away for that type of purchase, and basically sometimes the purchase would actually be a crate that takes the whole money out of the fund, because they sometimes, like, I think this year it's even taken more out. They have, and the police department has to find different lines that cover that purchase. Public Works, I think you have, if I'm right, Diane, I think you have a capital fund for Public Works.
400 accounts.
400 accounts.
Street machinery and then for roads.
Yeah, so basically, I can see from the fire department standpoint, there really is nothing there, showing that there is the needs. And all of a sudden, a fire department come in the door or say, okay, all of a sudden, we need this. Well, why do you need it? Where's your plan? Where's your, because when it comes to major fire department equipment, I have seen in the past too, in other communities, it comes to big engine, you usually take a note out
Yeah.
and then
But
you
well,
pay.
they
those.
have a capital outlay plan, right? Or their stuff is incorporated on ours. Is this ringing a bell? We've looked at it. So like when,
We looked at, you're talking about the Pacific Committee, maybe you looked at Public Safety Committee.
yeah, and the timeline for some of those bigger things is on that, where then that's coming from, like where with the engines, we've taken money, and then when we're looking at our budgets, the capital outlay and in those discussions, what are the big expenses that we're gonna be needing are coming out of that or supposed to come out of that capital outlay fund, where there's like this year, $10,000. And was supposed to be for the purpose of the turnout gear and
Yeah.
that stuff.
Now, see, I know in the in fire departments that besides your trucks or your equipment or you also gotta have your turnout gear. Turnout gear can only last so many years and they have to be replaced. And I had a conversation with one of the firemen and we're at that time of the year again and the turnout gear needs to be replaced. Otherwise, and that's kind of unfortunate. I've seen other communities where they get a grant for turnout gear. And then they replace the whole thing and then they come back again in so many years, there you are sitting where the whole organization needed to turnout gear. That I think, I don't know if it was in public safety budget this year, talking about the turnout gear. I know that since I've been here, there was discussions of possibly doing a grant application for that turnout gear. And that's what I've heard, but I don't know if it came through public safety and that I got a Caleb on. And then they had discussion on that turnout gear. However, if there is a plan, like fire department's conference, a plan for equipment replacement, including turnout gear, including other things that wear out within a certain equipment they use, that needs to be brought forward each year. So the finance committee can see it, everybody else can see it. And that's part of a overall budgeting process. And I don't think I'm saying anything different. Everybody needs to see that. However, then you gotta see where can it fit in the pie of the actual levy limits or the dollar amounts. And I already talked to Diane for this year coming up and Trustee Radke is correct because of your ambulance fee plus the loss of the constraint funds that you had in the past. We're gonna be tight this year, so I don't know if any new equipment can be in the making. If it is, the discussion then be if that is a high need, it has to be replaced. Then you take a look at another bond, but if you do a borrowing, but if you need to look at the borrowing, that borrowing comes back on you later on paying off that debt over a period of time that you levy for. So that discussion needs, I think, a positive discussion with the finance committee during this budget process to see where that equipment is and see when and if you can have the dollar or you want to borrow for it this month. But I think that's very important to look at it. Diane will analyze it. That's all we do before. If you're gonna borrow, then you gotta see what that's gonna do to your levy in the future. And I think, I don't know if you had that discussion yet at the public safety of, I don't wanna be negative, we want, but can you afford? And that's where I think Trustee Radke's coming from, is that can we afford this time? But we should at least know from a planning standpoint on the finance committee, that need or that overall plan from the fire department. I hope I didn't say anything that you guys haven't done in the past. Diane? Can you help?
Well, just that capital outlay line that's in the budget, like they have 10,000 in there this year, they haven't spent any of it yet. That needs to be spent this year if they're gonna get some capital outlay equipment. But, that doesn't roll over, that's why
That's
he was looking at it.
That's why they're looking at a 400 count. And basically, I think if the turnout gear, I don't know what that's gonna cost. But if there is a need for a turnout gear, you as the board, and I know Diane's correct, you usually don't, if you don't spend it, it goes back into the general fund. However, if you're gonna let that go back in the general fund, which is fine, then you start in 2024, you take that same dollar amount and you put it back in the budget for the turnout gear. You start being cognizant of what you're using it for. I have no idea what they put the 10,000 in last year. I don't think you know either, Diane.
No.
So,
Boss sent some stuff out to us and I don't have quite the right document, but do you remember that he had it tagged turnout gear
I saw his,
Maybe.
I saw his budget line, and he did have turnout gear tagged in that. But the problem is, did the, not Boz left unfortunately, but did our fire chief, how much is it gonna be for turnout gear? Is it gonna be 13,000, 15,000, or 20,000?
Have been hearing about it, but we have no numbers at this time.
Right, and I think we need to know numbers if we're gonna spend that money out of
And
this year.
basically, from this meeting, I think that's important to Diane. I relate that to Jason and see what's out there. Josh, I'm sorry, Jason?
Jason,
Yeah.
yeah. The other question I would have is with the turnout gear specifically, because I know we've heard that a couple times, do we have to replace all 30 sets at once, or can we do certain numbers?
Depending how, I've been with other departments, fire departments, and depending, and it really it's true, it's depending who responds, how many people do respond, and how many people use their gear compared to the people who may not respond or lesser part respond. So you have to look at the individual, that's why the individual who's responding, how many times responded in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you'll see whose turnout gears wore out more than the other one. A lot of them replace them all at one time, but the idea is that you have to have a turnout gear that, let's just say one member just constantly is at the fire department, constantly going, his turnout gear is gonna be much wore out more than the people who don't show up. So you can kind of, if you can phase it in that way. The whole idea though is that you want, and I'm very serious about it, you want the turnout gear to be up to date,
Mhm.
where they have in place for safety of the firefighters.
And did you say it's 10 years on the timeline?
It was
for-
10 years.
It's 10 years. And I think we're at that threshold, 2023.
But I don't know that we're at that for all of them.
That's what I was talking to, I can't think of his name right now, was working on,
Jason,
no, it was, he had
Matt,
Smith, is it?
Carrie,
Carrie.
Yeah, he was working on that piece. I don't know if he's an officer or not. He indicated that they're all due because they had a grant last time. He kind of agreed too. If we didn't buy them all at one time, then you
Mhm.
can actually get them a certain portion. So the big key is I'll talk to the chief. Let's find out how many people have really been not abusive, but used their equipment and see how many of them may be in pretty good shape that may only buy a third now and next third next year. So that way you don't do them all 1 year and doesn't hit your budget at one time. I'm sorry it took so long with that explanation.
No, no problems. I guess, on the
Yes.
400 account, to go back to, if there's money, we can create one, that's fine. I think that in the past that I've looked at budgets, we've actually cut putting money into some of the 400 accounts, which made us a little shortfall this year for the end loader because to balance the budget. So I guess at this point, I would not recommend the 400 account. So.
I've seen in
we
other
probably
communities
look
what
at different-
happens, you actually use a foreign account for some of the capital purchase. And then you can't do an annual budget. You go back and you do start taking some money out of your capital, to take care of your operations. I've seen other people do that. Sounds like me, I've done that in the past. Yeah, Diane.
Or they just didn't put any in that.
Got it. Same thing. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on that then, Caleb?
I'm gonna follow up with Jason.
And Dwayne will follow up with Jason on that and the turnout gear. 13, again, discussion and motion on Port Edwards Fire Department operating budget. I don't have a copy of it. Diane, did you get a copy of their budget? You must have.
I did.
To approve it here, or making I would think that, just to go over, each department should bring their, and maybe I'm wrong, each department should bring their budgets here. We can give them to Diane and then meet as a committee of the whole and then discuss where they're at before we approve their operating budgets.
I got some suggestions, if you don't mind hearing them.
Sure. Go ahead.
Basically, all departments, you guys use your committee structure quite extensively. You take it there and they really are not approving it. They're reviewing it and forward it on they should be forwarded on to the finance committee. And by forwarding on to the finance committee, we're forwarding on to Diane and myself. So we can look and plug in what their requests are. Then Diane, we have to come with, I see I've done in the past, special meetings with the finance committee, not the whole board. And they start going through and saying, we can't make the levy, we can't make the improvement, we have to start putting different numbers in and what the requests are. You get the request, but then you go back what the needs are. And the needs are meet within your financial means. Doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you may end up like Londa talked about, Trustee Tretke. They talked about is that to get to this point, the needs is high, well, let's not put that much in capital to take care of the operating needs. And that's a decision I think should come out of this committee recommended to the full village board, because my opinion is that's the work of a finance committee.
So I think what we generally do is.
And I don't know what you've done in the
finance
past.
Committee generally looks at everybody's, I think what the intent was through public safety was like, okay, we've looked at it, it looks okay for us, we have correct me if I say something wrong, Caleb. These are the things that if we have to cut, these are, like, we have a list prepared for that,
Do we need a motion then to bring it further?
not right now.
No.
But FHR should look at all of them again here shortly, another like special FHR
Yes.
committee, or we have done committee of the whole.
Oh,
So that we all can sit at the table, that way
I understand.
everybody's at the table, we go through it, then it goes to the final board. So on Tuesday, I was gonna bring up, okay, we need to have some ideas on when we can have the next committee of the whole meeting.
Got it.
Based on the budget, based off of the deadlines that we need to hit and make sure that cause the final numbers haven't come in yet for anything.
No, but I plugged in everybody's numbers from their wish list,
Okay,
and we are like 350,000 over our allowable levy.
Right. So basically, what I kind of knew that Diana talked about it. Also, I think it's important that there's a certain amount of timeline, Diane, we have to have to put the actual publication in so many days for the
Like
portion of it.
November.
And then we gotta, so I think
19th.
it's important that they can make the decision on what we're gonna publish very shortly. So you're gonna have to have a special meeting soon. And I gotta talk to Diane when that, we gotta back it out, Diane, I get that.
yeah, 'cause I don't,
So would it be better for our department heads to just give us, instead of wants, operating budget?
operating and
And then
absence.
take and then we can meet as either committee of the whole or our committee can meet. I like to meet as a whole, so then we know everybody
why.
is on the same page when we go to the board meeting and we can answer those questions.
Yeah, so we do have to, that's one thing I'm gonna bring up on Tuesday, and I might actually send out an email about it, setting a date for that, and probably just blocking off a couple hours, worth, preferably on a Thursday or Friday if Dwayne's here.
Yeah, Thursdays, I appreciate.
Yeah,
And
so.
the other thing, I think is now that Diane has told us,
Mhm.
seeing that, I think it's important that we get an email out to our department heads. And then I recommended, if you don't mind, Diane and I put that together, so we
Go
can
for it.
explain to them what we got
Mhm.
and what we're looking at. And I'll talk to Diane and say, how do we word this? You're gonna have to pare this down. And I know there's requests in different areas. And a good one I'll look at, and then he's sitting in here, is the police chief on the, resource officer or a different portion of the office. Knowing that is just now, and I mean, you told me before, knowing that there's $300,000 that we gotta find. It's gonna be some hard work looking for each department. And the only reason I'm saying it, because I've been in another place, when you get stuck with levy limits. And like Diane said, and it's like levy limits, and we don't have the restraint program coming, and we do know about the new the police fire, EMS,
Ambulance.
ambulance. As a group, we have to come and make sure that we can keep certain things operating, stay within our line that we have, and we just can't create another, we just can't go in a hole.
Mhm.
So I'll be working with Diane tomorrow on this.
I think
Go ahead, Diane. you'll-
tomorrow, but I think it's good if the department heads wanna come in and I'll show them what comes out of each line.
Perfect. I
'Cause
like
then they
that.
can adjust it accordingly too.
Perfect.
So whatever works in your schedule, Diane, I think it's important to have that, but if I can't be here, that's fine. I know they know what they're doing. And I know sometimes Jason cannot come, but we gotta work with Jason, maybe at a different hour, but that's important that we have that discussion in each department.
Yep.
Thank you, Diane.
Well, thanks, and with that discussion.
Can we table the motion?
Yeah, I'll table the motion on that discussion. Just thinking, that's a lot of money to come up with.
Well,
Okay,
you asked them to give you a wish list, so that's what happens.
Well, and I just wanna say too, the end of year estimates I mean, I was just guessing. So I mean, there are two of the department heads could come in and say, well, no, we don't plan on spending any more in that line, then those can come down, and then that'll give us more cash on hand at the end of the year, and that'll help too.
So therefore, I think that it's very important that each make a point with Diane, department heads too, and start going through the discussion. That I won't be here, but that teamwork has to occur. So, and so that portion can work on. And you're all in it together. It's not separate departments. You're one village and you can do the best you can.
Okay,
Sorry for the speech.
no
Can I ask a
problem.
question?
Sure, yes.
What with, this is Dwayne for you and Diane, if either of you know, the shared revenue that, and I think we may have already touched on it, but and just for the review, how are we impacted with the shared revenue? Was that like 27,000? And then how, so the talk with that legislation change, what is the information as far as we're looking forward and being planful, where can we get some kind of framework and numbers for what if we decided to look at, you know, shared services in some way, the incentive piece with that legislation, where can we find out if that would be something that would benefit us or not?
So basically what this legislation did was they've been doing a lot of work in another community. They were fortunate to bring it in, they allowed 3 areas to use it for, public safety, help me Diana, public,
Just about everything except administration,
Right.
public works, law enforcement, public safety, any kind of public safety, courts, just no administrative costs.
and that
So like
mean,
an administrator,
Right, nothing that
Oh,
comes
I
under
heard we
general,
could.
basically,
I heard we could with an administrator, with shared.
not from what I read.
no, not what I read either. Mm-hmm. And so basically, the real, when you're asked your question is basically the dollar amount that we're gonna see additional, it's gonna be eaten up right away with the ambulance service.
Oh.
So we immediately are eating that up. And
But
she said,
the
Yeah.
piece that I'm wondering if we can get more information on is the part where, didn't they incentivize a shared service, that there would be an incentive, a monetary incentive?
Right. but you're, on that, go ahead, Dan, you go first with your
Well,
question.
that I don't know about. I do know, I got the 2024 estimate already for our shared revenue with that extra payment in there. And that's already figured in the budget.
I figured you'd say that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, the shared services, I don't know.
But
about
they
that.
have an area, if you do, let's see, the government agreement, you start doing shared services, I'm just gonna use this for an example. Throw it out there. And we have law enforcement, police enforcement going on, we have it here in Port Edwards. We also have our chief leaving in a year and a half or a year or something like that. We also know that town of Grand Rapids is going through a process of looking for a new chief. That's an opportunity where you start, and I've seen other communities do it. Where you create I don't care what you wanna call it, Southside Police Department, you create one entity and you have one chief, and that comes with all organization portion. That's what you're talking about.
Mhm.
That's an example. And basically then, when they do other ones, I've seen other places, they will do intergovernmental agreements with the fire departments too. But that doesn't happen overnight. And
And that's why we could get some, what does this mean? What is the,
good examples here is, and I've seen it in Weston, Schofield, in those areas. You end up creating a police department that serves both sides. You have one chief, and then you have another body that is a separate body that manages that organization. And both parties participate in it. They're out there, and they've been good, and I'll be very honest with you, I did talk to the chief a week ago on this, because I found out his retirement, I said, and he said the other one's retiring too, and this would be a great opportunity for you two communities to really look at that. Problem is that you all get one squad, but you put your money into that group. The idea is that you have one chief, and then it doesn't matter where they are stationed at, you can have, it doesn't matter, but basically, right now, and a good example is that we got a river that divides us, Wisconsin River. We have constituents on that side of the river, and we got constituents on this side of the river. We have fire protection over there. We have wonderful mutual agreed aid. By having one fire department covering both sides, I think is a economic good move, an efficient move for both of the communities. So I think it's something that I'd recommend you, because you're using that, then you do that and you put that in place. You may then, both communities can maybe see some better shared revenues. But that's the emphasis behind it, is to have you think more about shared.
How do you
services.
start that, I guess, do we reach to these other communities and ask if they're interested, or how do you wanna start the process of that?
Best place to start in that process, believe it or not, lies right on laps of the existing police chiefs. Because they're the ones that know what each one's doing, they're the ones that talk to each other. And if, I'm sorry to be honest with you, if elected official says it, doesn't go very far. You get the main chiefs, the ones that run the organization, the ones that do day-to-day stuff. You have them have the conversation, you have them look at it, and they can put a plan together. And I've worked with chiefs before doing that, but I think both communities at this time have a great opportunity. It may happen until maybe 2 years from now, 3 years now, but that's how you get discussion started.
Mhm.
And I know our chief, I know other chiefs, when they leave, when they retire these positions, they wanna see something that stays alive, and gets to work and have still services. Unfortunately, when our smaller communities today, you got 2 public works departments, you got 2 fire departments, you got 2 police departments. When you're a smaller community, you gotta look at these regional type of work. I do know, because I'm involved with down south, and also here, your police chief for Rapids is very much involved statewide on portions of it, where you get certain legislations where you can create a fire district, which is not associated with intergovernmental agreements. Intergovernmental agreements is pretty tougher to do, putting together, but that's the only mechanism you have right now. So you asked a question, which I went way off on a tangent, and I apologize, but that is something I think that Port Edwards is on a cusp of being able to do.
Right, I just wonder if
I don't wanna
if
scare
there's
anybody.
some place, and maybe we need to contact our legislator, but someplace that says, this is how it must work for us to give you.
The league is the best place to go. And the league is the best place to go, and they've been getting questions from this municipality. And I'll put my note down and reach out on that, and I actually, the reason the best thing to reach out, I'll have the police chief work with me, because this is the thing that's right around the corner for you, really.
Mhm.
And then we can add Nicosa in there too, if they wanna play with. I'm just teasing you now.
He doesn't even know what he just did. He has no idea what he's saying.
No, I don't.
He does. Okay, that's
Someone's
old business,
Who's got a jab?
yeah, I figured you did, thanks for that, chat. Discussion on new business,
serious.
the new business that I wanna bring up to the next meeting is, of course, the budget. So we can have more numbers of where we're gonna be. The other thing is too, Dwayne, I guess this would be for you, is, if we can get, I mean, our employees. Again, our employees are our bread and butter, they take care of this community, they do all the work that we're,
Demand.
that we demand of them, and the streets, fire, police. So I think we need to look at, different increments of wage increase for them, that we can look at them numbers to put in the budget also. I know he said cost of living is 3.9, I don't know, last year we did 3, maybe if we can do, whatever you can come up with, maybe a 2 or 3, just to give us an idea of where that's gonna be and how it's gonna fall in place. The other thing that I'm gonna probably put on the next one for new business would be, Diane has gone out and beyond her regular duties. And I know that Boz had put in some line for bonuses, and maybe some other employees that have gone up and above and beyond, and I'd bring it to this committee for approval. But I think that we should look at if that's lines in there, bonuses. So I seen that, I remember seeing that when Boz was here and he had brought up about people that had done outstanding things. And, some of our employees are going above and beyond with budget work and other things that have really helped the transition of, everything, along with, thank your help too for getting us through that.
That's a line that I was gonna suggest we take out of there because.
Diane, you can't
we
take
don't
your own
really
bonus
have-
out.
We don't have the extra money to do stuff like that. I mean, that line had $7,500. And
7,500?
we have our jobs, we do our jobs. We don't need, I mean, that's just, we have got extra money when we don't.
Okay,
So,
She is very
very
honest.
okay, yeah. But I think that we should consider that though, when it comes time for increase in wages. And maybe we need to look at that too, as far as, increasing some wages and do an adjustment on an evaluation. I don't know if there was a lot done, I guess I will talk to you later, and evaluations and how we see that.
We still didn't move the police department from the PAA study. And we're looking at our guys are actively being recruited. So we gotta figure out a way, how do we retain them and not throw money out the window with turnover? When the money that is being made out there, which although I absolutely appreciate our law enforcement, but their hourly wage is insanity. I get what the responsibility, I get that. But at some point, we have to decide, what are we gonna do?
Well, we can put that on, like I said, we'll put that on agenda for new business, and I have actually some figures too, and we can take a look at them, so, okay,
Did you make your meeting on Thursday?
we can do that,
I appreciate that.
okay. We can even go earlier if you need to be, I mean, I don't want you driving in the dark.
No, you won't be that in the dark.
Okay.
Whatever fits for the.
Correspondence, I didn't receive any correspondence. Them are agenda items for the next meeting. I guess I should have put that under that instead of new business, but wages that we can talk about. With that, Caleb, do you have anything else for our committee?
No, I know that we will continue to talk in public safety concerning police-related budget. We have moved on the fire department. I know that we'll continue to talk about it. And when we talk about it, I'm prepared to bring, we approved it without any major concerns, but we did have questions, and I want to bring forward what the public safety had listed as far as questions for the fire department. But then we will, in our next meeting or next two meetings, be focusing on the police and their 2024 budget.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you. Kira, do you have anything else? Betsy, anything for the committee?
No, I know.
Dwayne,
No, I'm gonna shut.
Diane? With that,
That's good.
5 o'clock, we will adjourn the meeting.